Hey there, fam. How's it going? And welcome to another episode of the Midweek Motivation. How y'all doing? Y'all having a great week? Y'all killing it? Y'all getting after all the wins, all the victories? I hope so. I'm proud of y'all. I know y'all doing big and great things. So we just had the F1 race not that long ago, and in watching that, it was pretty cool how everything was moving around, how things were just just how fast those things are. If you've never seen F1, check it out. It's pretty cool. And the dynamic is just phenomenal on how they move their car. Anyways, this is not a car podcast, but we'll get into this. The reason why I this subject was, ironically, the pit crew. You're thinking, Rods, out of the whole race, the pit crews will got you. Yes, because them boys are quick. They go in and out, boom, 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 up and down. They do so much all at once. It's fluid. It's just great to watch. It's great. I like it a lot. And in that, I was watching it and I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine. We were just saying how in sync they are. And then whatever we won, we saw the race. We went home, and I'm here just we're having just talking over dinner, and God quietly whispered, like, man, isn't it crazy how sometimes just, when our life isn't in sync, just how bad things can get. Like when we are in sync with God, then, things just are misfiring, things aren't just hitting right. And then that opened up a whole different topic, and we just started talking about that. It's just crazy how God gets involved even in the most, what you would think insignificant, like an F1 race. And we're happy to talk about the race, and that's where, God went and just dropped some word. It was great having a buddy that we just go back and forth, take some notes. If you're watching this, shout outs to you, bro. But yeah, it was interesting because then we got brought into the word, which is what today's verse is going to be, which is Isaiah 60:22. Now, I won't read the whole thing of 60, but basically to catch up, because the ending is interesting. It talks about how it's the glory of Zion is, how great they're going to be and what they're going to come out of, how they're just going to be just a jewel and something to appreciate and just be mesmerized, like, wow, this is the glory of Zion, right? So if you want, go home, go and read the whole chapter, but we're going to focus today on chapter 60, verse 22. Now in that, at the very end of it, after it's been, God's talking about the praise and everything of Zion, it says, the least of you will become 1,000, and the smallest a mighty nation. I am the Lord, and in its time, I will do this swiftly. Right? It's the timing of God. And you've heard of people talking about how, God's time is perfect, and we have to wait on, God's timing, and his time never fails, and all that. And this is a way we can reference to it. So he gives us a promise, and he tells us that in his time, he'll do it swiftly, right? So that thing you have been praying about, that thing that you're expecting God to do, that glory you want to get, that level up, whatever it is that you've been praying for, God's going to do it in his time. And when he does it, he's going to do it swiftly, right? So it's going to seem like it just came out of nowhere. It's going to seem like, man, last month I was struggling, and now look at this. Like, I have a promotion, these job opportunities opened up, whether it's a project, whether it's, job opportunity, whether it's, a health thing. Maybe you weren't feeling too hot, and boom, God just went and, he flipped the script, and now you're doing, you're feeling so much better. You're doing, you're excelling, you're just flourishing, all that, right? Just add whatever situation you have. Now, think about it, like I say, a month from now, a week from now, a day from now, and boom, God does, the amazing thing. God does the impossible. He makes the possible possible in his glory and all his power and strength. So he gives a promise that when he says, the least of you will become 1,000, right? So like, tiny but mighty. Then it goes, the smallest a mighty nation, right? The Bible also talks about in other areas in the Bible where it says, where Elijah was out there and they sent out his servant. He's like, hey, go check the coast. And mind you, it hadn't rained for years. And the servant comes back multiple times. And it's like, I don't see anything. Then the last time, he's like, I see something the size of the cloud, the size of a man's hand, starting to expand. Now, Stephen Furtick has a song about that from Elevation Church, and he talks about how, that you see a cloud the size of a man's hand starting to expand, and it might start small, but little is much when God is in it, right? So when it says at the very the final part of it, I am the Lord. In its time, I will do this swiftly, right? So when we think about it, that if we are, let's say, out of sync, right? We know the clear communication with God, and we're not listening to what his instructions are, we can start misfiring. I use an example of an engine, where we're talking about the F1. So kind of best put us together. There's something called a timing belt, right? That timing belt keeps everything in order. Now, if that timing belt goes bad, you start misfiring. Things start going wrong. Things start, firing when they shouldn't be firing. They don't fire when they should be firing. The timing belt in itself, like it says, it gives us timing, keeps everything in sync. Because if not, then this $1 million engine now breaks down because of this one thing, right? Because that one thing breaks, which then leads to another thing breaking another thing, and then it's a chain reaction. Now, in keeping with that, think of a pit crew, right? You've seen NASCAR, you've seen F1, or if you've seen it before, you know what a pit crew is, right? They go in there, right? The drivers go in, there's racing, boom, boom, boom. Like, hey, you're gonna get the pit. So they go in the pit, and these people have been training so much. They've gone through this rhythm so many times. Each one knows their job. That when the driver comes in there, it's a matter of seconds. Boom. It's not minutes, it's seconds. They go in there, boom, drop the tires, lift the car up, fuel it up really fast. They swap it out, change it. If they have to change a piece of the car, they change a piece of the car, and boom, they're out of there. Now, if a team member is late on their job, is not quick enough, is messed up, doesn't do their job completely, that adds more time. Now, the racer, in turn, is now slacking. So he might have been in the lead, but because his pit crew didn't do their job and didn't, swiftly execute what they had to do, they weren't in sync, now that can cost him the race, right? Then imagine, I love UFC. So imagine a UFC fighter, right? They're going out there, or a boxer, and they just don't feel it. Bam. And their time was, they say, the timing's off. That they're not really understanding the opponent. The opponent's kind of throwing them off, maybe doing a couple of jabs, doing a couple of jukes and jives, doing these different things. So now he can't get his timing. Maybe he woke up not feeling it that day. That then in turn in the fight, the other fighter, his opponent, gets his timing and realizes, okay, he does jab, jab, hook, or he does this, or he takes two steps this way before going that way, and then goes for the hook, and he times it properly, and hits him hard, and maybe even knocks him down. Now, obviously, you have to get back up, all that stuff like that. But we're going to talk about the timing. If his timing's off, the opponent can go and creep in and get a shot off. Now, I'm not saying that's the way he's doing the fight, but you don't want to get hit, right? Why? If you can avoid getting hit, that's obviously the best case scenario. Now, apply that to your walk with Christ. If your timing's off, if you're not hitting on all cylinders, if you're going and not focusing and listening to God's word and let him guide you, then the enemy can sneak in a shot and sneak another shot. And then before you know it, you're like, oh man, I'm getting attacked from all different sides. Well, maybe your timing's off, right? Maybe your communication isn't there with your coach. Now, like another example, I'm using all different examples to paint a picture, right? And it's, imagine, let's say, a basketball team, right, or a baseball team. And the coach on the outside, he sees the whole game. He starts noticing, you know what? Let's say for basketball, this, the forward here does this right here, and he has a certain dribble, or the point guard, he moves his body to the left before he crosses over something, and the coach from the outside sees the whole court, so he could be like, hey, you know what? He tells his person that's guarding him, hey, do this, do that. Now, if he's off and he doesn't realize that, he doesn't catch on, he doesn't pay attention, listen to his coach that sees everything, then that can then in turn, get that player can score, and then if they do multiple times, they could lose the game. There's just so many different ways of describing it, but just to paint a different picture of it, so I can cover all the bases, is we need to stay in sync with God. We need to stay just focused and listening to him, so when he speaks, we're able to move. That if he's like, hey, I need you to go left, cool, we go left. And if I need you to back off here, I need you to pray about that, I need you to not go here, I need you to not go there. That when we stay so in tune, then we need that free flow of information, that free flow of just speaking. When we have God with, leading us through all of that, we're in sync, but we're firing on all cylinders, and we can do even more for the kingdom. We can progress even more. We can get after those wins. We can achieve those goals that we have probably quicker And if we didn't, if we try to go by our understandings, the Bible says, lean not on your own understandings, but in all your ways acknowledge him, right? You need to acknowledge the fact that, hey, God, you got my back. You understand what's going on. You've seen the whole picture. You've seen the whole game plan. So I must stay in rhythm with you. I must stay in sync with you to go to the next step, right? I hope I gave you those enough good examples to understand that it's how important it is to stay synced up with God, to stay in line with his word. Yeah? Hope this was beneficial for you guys. Love you guys. I know you guys are killing it. I know you guys are just working super hard just to end the week with a win. I love y'all. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of these talks. See y'all next week. Stay safe. Make it the best day ever.